You've just said you want to involve Scotland, Wales, the opposition, potentially UKIP as well in the talks. Can you really be confident that we might actually leave the EU by Christmas with a deal that actually would be good for the country?
I'm not setting a specific time. I'm saying we need to treat this with urgency, we need to get a grip, we need to not have a period of uncertainty, so we need to work as hard as we can and as fast as we can to achieve the real opportunities from leaving the EU.
Can I ask you, you said in your speech just now that the work of the Fresh Start Group, it will really help you in a Brexit negotiation, but obviously 2013 was the big year when you did your big Fresh Start report, and that was also the year that you said that we should remain a member of the European Union. So I'm just wondering how that thinking can inform you when you took a different conclusion. And secondly, can I ask you, it's reported that when Boris Johnson heard about Michael Gove's decision, he said, that's it, we're now going to have a Remain Prime Minister. Do you think that the other Brexit candidates in this race, Michael Gove and Liam Fox, should stand aside to ensure that doesn't come true?
Okay, so taking the second first, I don't think we should have any sort of coronation. I personally believe the person who takes forward our country needs to be someone who believes in the opportunities outside the EU. In answer to your... In answer to your first question, I have been completely clear all the way through. You know, I grew up in a country that was part of the EU. We were already sort of there, and that was my background. I'm sure it's the same for many of you. It's been a real journey for me. When I came into Parliament with strong concerns about the direction the EU was headed, I set up the Fresh Start project to do the work, to get into the sort of the engine of the EU, to see how does it affect us, what can we change. And I and colleagues spent years trying to lead that reform. In that very same speech that's been quoted, I was totally clear. The status quo is not an option. The EU is changing in a very difficult direction, and we could only remain a part of it if it fundamentally reformed. What was very clear only a few short months ago is that that renegotiation is simply impossible. So, you know, I have looked at the facts, I have studied the facts probably more than anybody else around here, and I can, oh, actually Bill Cash accepted, I beg your pardon, just seeing it, sorry. Yeah. Humility where it's due. But no, seriously, you know, when you see very compelling facts, you have to go with what those facts are telling you. And very clearly, the EU is holding us back. We need to make our way in the world, and it's right out there for us.
Could you envisage activating Article 50 this calendar year and ruled out by some of your fellow competitor leadership contenders? And also, are you know, you've been critical of things like HS2 in the past. That was in the Conservative manifesto. If you change manifesto commitments, should there not be a general election too?
Okay, so in answer to your second point, I don't think we should have another general election. We have a Conservative manifesto that takes us through until 2020. There's a lot of work still to be done on it. I stood on it and I stand by it. With specific point about your question on HS2, I would certainly, as would any government, want to make sure that it offers best value for taxpayers at all times. You know, that is absolutely good housekeeping. And your first question, sorry if I said, Article 50. Yeah, as I said to Laura, I'm not putting deadlines on it, you know, but what I am doing is already looking with some colleagues at what the options are and how best we can do this with urgency. We need to get a grip, we need to give businesses certainty as soon as we can.
George, hi.
Oh, sorry, George.
You said that you find excessive boardroom pay totally unacceptable. I just wondered what you actually would do about it. The second question, people have been asking about your ministerial experience. Some people in the Treasury say during your time as City Minister you were, in quotes, a disaster and the worst minister you've ever had. What would you say to them?
Well, they could come and talk to me about that. So, I don't know what to say about the latter. I don't know who you spoke to, George. That's never been the feedback I've had from my time as City Minister. But in terms of the point about boardroom pay, I'm absolutely, perfectly in support of entrepreneurialism, job creation, wealth creation and so on. the point I'm making is that people who have become very rich on the back of poor performance, poor business practices and so on, we need to do something about that. And obviously those will be to be set out in the fullness of time.
Anishka and then Robert.
Yeah, can I just say, you said you wanted to guarantee the rights of EU citizens in this country. Does that mean people arriving today and until we actually get Brexit, or are you talking about people who came before the vote? And can I just ask, what's your opinion on expansion at Heathrow?
So I think on Heathrow we need to make a decision very soon. On airport expansion generally we've got to make decisions very soon. On free movement we have to very quickly get in control of the numbers of people who are coming here. Whether that means we have to have a sort of transitional arrangement since the referendum or indeed since negotiations start, but it's very clear that what we must prioritise as soon as possible, now that there's clarity about the direction that we're going in, that we want to be able to control the numbers of people who are coming here.
Foreign Secretary Philip Hammond says that we cannot restrict free movement if we have full access to the single market. Is he right about that? And secondly, prior to the negotiations following leaving, can you be confident that Brits living in places like Spain and France will be able to stay there, and indeed that those who've come to work here from the rest of the EU will be able to stay here?
So, in answer to your latter point, I firmly believe that all European countries are democratically elected political institutions who will not either act in an illegal or in an unfair way. They will take pragmatic decisions that's in the interest of their people and our people. I absolutely firmly believe that.
You can't be certain, can you?
Well, I think we can all be fairly certain. I mean, there may well be some sabre rattling, but I think we can be fairly certain that democratically elected leaders of countries would not do something so rash or so, frankly, scaremongering as to try and suggest that people's rights and livelihoods and families and so on would be destroyed by this. I think that would be very rash and very unfair.
And then on to environment and single market?
I don't agree with that point. I think that, again, democratically elected European parliaments will take pragmatic decisions about what's in their interests, and they will choose to give tariff-free access to the UK for all sorts of reasons, and we will be able to continue to trade with them tariff-free. That will not be, I don't think, a bargaining chip around free movement. I don't agree with that.
Fred, just the last question. Steve Hawkes, please.
Hi, Andrea. Susan,
Steve.
if I may. I'm not sure if you're aware that Nigel Farage has suddenly become available.
For what?
Can you confirm once and for all whether you would be willing to have him as part of your team or as an advisor? And secondly, are you concerned that your rivals seem to be playing up this link with you in a way to sort of attack you?
I will only have my key negotiating team from the government, and that's quite clear. There will be consultations, but it will be a government cabinet minister and members of the government who lead the negotiations. Am I concerned? I'm not really concerned about anything. I am who I am. I stand up for myself, and I hope that I'm completely honest, and if anyone wants to ask me a question, they can, and I have no allegiances to UKIP.